Today's customers expect more from distributors more choice, higher availability, and a better service experience. For distributors, delivering these benefits in the face of increased competition and rapidly changing markets puts increased pressure on operational efficiency. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Analytics Insight podcast, where we unpack the technologies, strategies, and leadership shaping the future of our world. And I'm your host, Priya Dialani. Now, India's logistics industry has long been the lifeline of our economy, moving everything from daily essentials to industry machinery across vast geographies. But with the rise of e commerce, rapid urbanization, and even changing consumer expectations, the traditional ways of managing warehouses and deliveries simply can't keep up. Let's enter AI and automation. So, today we are going to explore how they are transforming this industry from end to end with Ajay Rao, founder and CEO of Emiza. Hi, Ajay, how are you doing?
Hi, good morning. Pleasure to be here and doing great and hope you're doing well too.
Great. Thank you so much, Ajay. I'm doing good. And it's a pleasure to have you with us on a podcast today. And of course, we are going to talk about the most, I think, discussed industry in today's rapidly changing digital era, that is logistics and warehousing. And I guess after COVID, this one particular industry has kind of transformed 360 degrees, is what I would say. But, before we dive deeper into our discussion, let's talk about Emiza. So if you could help our listeners understand more about your organization, its specialization, it would be great.
So, Emiza, the name comes from the Isa or Isa is power in Sanskrit. Emiza is empower. Our whole model is about empowering small and medium businesses to grow their business both online and offline. We predominantly are a 3PL, which is a third-party logistics company, and are focused on consumer brands. That is what we do. So we work with brands like beauty and personal care, fashion and lifestyle, home and kitchen, all of these. And we enable them by providing them a single platform, a warehousing and fulfillment platform, through which they are able to fulfill all of their orders across multiple channels, be it from GT, MT, from website, Amazon, Flipkart, or even quick commerce. So the whole idea is the brands, we take away the headache and the hassle of the brands from figuring out how to get their product in the hands of the consumer. We give them a plug and play warehousing and fulfillment platform into which they can send their product and then seamlessly fulfill the orders right from when the order is received to when it is delivered. So that is what we do. We service over 150 customers today. We are present across 12 cities and we do over 4.5 million B2C orders a month from our warehouses.
That's pretty impressive, Ajay. Thank you for sharing that overview about the company and also sharing certain statistics. Of course, I mean, what stands out is not just your particular specialization, but the depth of innovation that truly drives your mission. Moving ahead, Ajay, was your journey in logistics, warehousing, and supply chain operations commenced back then in 2004 with the Writer Group, and it's been more than a decade you're working in this particular industry. So, can you tell us more about yourself? How has the journey been till date? What triggered the birth of Emiza, and what exactly is your role towards the company?
So like you mentioned, I started my career in logistics with Writer in 2004. So prior to that, I was actually in the US. I studied there. I was working in management consulting for about 5 years. Moved back to India very from a very white collared sort of a job into a blue collared logistics industry, which was quite a culture shock. But it was a very, very interesting transition for me at that point in my life. And my stint at Writer, so my initial stint was about building their cash logistics business. So that gave me a lot of insight into how ground operations run in India, how a logistics network is built in India. So with them, I spent 5 years building that business from scratch to number two. Then within the same group, I sort of became the chief executive officer for their relocation business, which gave me exposure to running not only India, but 6 other countries in the Middle East. And so spent a good 10 years and then moved into all cargo, where I was the president for the warehousing and contract logistics business, which was a startup for them at that point of time. And I built that business also for them. We were able to do an acquisition in that space as well. But during my time there is when I saw some very interesting trends, right? So at that point of time, this was maybe around 2014, 2015, e-commerce was just beginning to emerge and burgeon in India. And most of the 3PLs, be it All Cargo or people like Mahindra or TVS Supply Chain, they were all largely focused on B2B enterprise customers. And these customers were largely in automotive, engineering, and chemical. So the kind of 3PL operations that were being run for these verticals was very different. It was bulk operations, movements towards the end of the month, fewer orders, less complexity. And most of the 3PLs were geared towards handling these larger set of enterprise customers in these particular verticals. With e-commerce burgeoning, there was a very, very clear, sort of trend emerging where SMBs were now going to come into focus, because SMBs were the ones who were going to maximize the benefit of this e-commerce platform. And the kind of operating platform that was needed for these SMBs was very different from what was being offered by traditional 3PLs like TVS and Mahindra and all of these. And that's the gap that I saw in the market, that these people needed very nimble operations. They needed, instead of bulk operations, you needed all piece picking, which was individual orders fulfillment to individual customers instead of bulk orders to distributors. You needed the ability to handle multiple channels, Amazon, Flipkart, your own website. Then you had modern trade coming in. You had fulfillment to marketplaces. So all of these were very, very complex operations, which the traditional 3PLs were not geared or didn't understand how to handle. The second thing was that these were SMBs. So they didn't have a lot of capital to put into dedicated warehousing infrastructure. So there clearly was a need for a plug and play warehousing model where somebody could open multiple warehouses across the country without investing a single rupee. So these two macro trends is what we saw in 2015, 2016, and that sort of led us to create Emiza and give these SMBs that plug and play warehousing and fulfillment platform, which would enable them to sort of grow their business on all of these new marketplaces and channels without breaking the bank and without having to invest a sizable amount of capital. So that's kind of the genesis. And fortunately, the gods have been kind. We've been, the model clicked. We were one of the first in the market to come up with something like this, and we've been able to scale significantly. And it's in fact during COVID is when we saw the maximum amount of growth, right? Because at that point of time, with COVID coming in, most of your people are not allowed to go out. So GTMT was fairly impacted, and the only channel that was available was e-commerce. So that was those 2 or 3 years is where we significantly grew and sort of established ourselves as the market leader in this.
That's fascinating, and definitely, I must say you've had an impressive journey, Ajay, till date. And I mean, it's clear that your role goes far beyond, the day-to-day responsibilities, and you're one of the crucial elements shaping the vision and translating that into a real impact. Moving ahead, I think the logistic industry is at the cusp of a transformative revolution driven by rapid advancements in AI and automation. Now, as global supply chains become more complex and consumer expectations continue to rise, logistics companies are increasingly turning to these technologies to enhance their efficiency, reduce cost, and even deliver a superior customer service. Now, of course, I feel that the future of logistics is being shaped by AI and automation today, and those who embrace these technologies and innovations are poised to lead the industry into a new era of growth and success. So, how do you think AI and automation are transforming warehousing, inventory forecasting, and even last mile delivery, specifically in India's logistics sector?
So, I always like to sort of split the AI and the automation. They're two different aspects. So today, if I talk about it, if you ask me, the automation piece came in before the AI piece, right? So when you talk about automation in the context of logistics, it's largely driven around two pillars. One is automation driven through software, and the second is automation driven through hardware. So if you look at specifically on the last mile side, right, there has been a huge amount of a huge impact of automation over there. If you rewind back to maybe 2015, 2016, before as e-commerce was building, the whole courier, the parcel delivery business did not exist, right? That business came into vogue, right when e-cart and Flipkart and Amazon came out. Before that, courier was primarily documents. So the moment parcel delivery came in and that volume started growing, in the early days, a lot of that parcel sorting was all done manually, right? So the first level of automation that we've seen that has transformed last mile is the implementation of sortation systems within these courier companies. So today, there is not a single courier company or a larger one that is not using a sortation machine. So these sorting machines help these courier companies to sort packages at a significant scale, which then helps them sort of route the packages to the next destination and so on and so forth. So last mile to a large extent has been, today last mile deliveries are standing primarily on account of sortation. If that sortation automation hadn't come in, that business would not be where it is today. So that is number one. Second is, when I talk about automation, it is also within warehousing. When I talk about on the fulfillment side, which is the order picking and packing, here in the last 7 to 8 years, and even within our own warehouses, we've implemented a lot of conveyor systems, right? So earlier everything was moved around manually. Now conveyor systems have coming in, the conveyor systems that automatically and smartly direct packages or products within the warehouse, from picking to packing. So that's the next level of automation that's coming. On the software side, there has been tremendous amount of improvements through automation through WMS, which is warehouse management systems, WCS, which are warehouse control systems. So warehouse control systems are essentially software that are the layer that integrate a warehouse management system with a piece of hardware, could be a conveyor or a sortation system. So the last 7 or 8 years, these kind of automations have come in, which have transformed both warehouse operations, which is the flow of material within the warehouse, and subsequently sortation, which is the sortation and distribution of packages once they are en route to the customer. In terms of warehouse management systems, also today, there has been a lot of advancement over there. Warehouse operations have gotten a lot more complex. People, earlier it was all bulk handling, now it has become piece handling. So a lot of software which helps intelligently manage order routing within the warehouse, which intelligently help utilization of space and cube within the warehouse, that intelligently help and place inventory, fast moving inventory closer to packing stations. So all of these things are technologies that have come in, which have helped improve efficiency, automate processes, automate workflows within the overall logistics and warehousing piece. Now, if I talk about AI, right? Uh, uh, Now, AI again is a term that's sometimes loosely used and sometimes misused also. Uh, when I talk about AI, it's largely around the ability to handle and manage huge amounts of data, to be able to find discernible patterns within that data, and to be able to then leverage that information to make smarter decision making, right? So that is how I sort of define AI, and that has been the main benefit today when you talk about AI, right? The biggest impact that we've seen AI is around inventory planning and demand forecasting. So previously, demand forecasting was done in a very simple manner, where people would just analyze past trends, because we didn't have either the access to multiple data points, external data points, nor did we have the ability to compute. Now, with the computing power increasing exponentially, with NVIDIA and all of these kind of superset chips coming in, we are able to not only rely on historical data, we're also able to take sense data from external inputs. It could be social media, it could be geopolitical changes that are happening, it could be supplier information. So the ability to bring all of these multitude of data together and then have data sets trained to be able to intelligently analyze and predict is been the major change that we've seen. So this has helped in demand forecasting, like I've said. Second is inventory planning. So today, brands are able to plan more intelligently at a location level what inventory needs to be stored, keeping in mind what are the customers that particular location serves. That has helped reduce the amount of excess inventory in the system. It has helped brands reduce the overall amount of production required, right? So what happens today is that if you don't have these systems, you end up overproducing, you may end up overstocking in one location, understocking. So all of these kind of problems have been solved through the use of these data and AI, right? So these are some examples that I can cite.
Definitely, I think that was a very fascinating deep dive into how intelligent systems like um, AI and automation are reshaping the very backbone of logistics in India. And of course, like you mentioned about, how automation has been into existence since a long time, and we have seen more advancements in it. And with AI coming into picture, I think it is creating a lot of impact in how we are serving our customers better in terms of better inventory planning and demand forecasting. So I think it with AI in the picture, I think it's no longer just a back end optimizer. I think it's real there in the front end as well. So let's keep unpacking this theme now. As a scale of transformation we are seeing, especially in a country as complex and diverse as India, is nothing short of groundbreaking. I feel now from tier one cities to remote corners of the a country, we are witnessing automation and AI driving efficiency, helping us make more resilient supply chains. Now, for decades, I think businesses in rural and semi-urban areas have struggled with delayed deliveries, stockouts, and even inconsistent service quality. Roads might be unpaved, or addresses are very ambiguous, or local networks are pretty unreliable. So, this logistical complexity has historically limited opportunities for small retailers, or even healthcare providers who are trying to reach out to patients in remote villages. But I think AI is starting to level the playing field in some remarkable ways. So, how do you think that AI led solutions are bringing speed, accuracy, and even access to these underserved regions? And what is the role of Emiza here?
So I think, like I said, the foundation for any AI is data, right? So if you ask me over the last 8 to 10 years, and see, India, the biggest challenge is around addresses, like you talked about, you mentioned in your preamble, right? So the issue really is about accurate addresses. I mean, still today, you have addresses ki oh, अपना ये दुकान के पास या ये people के trade के पीठ के नीचे, right? So those are the kind of things, addresses that still exist. But what has happened over the last 8 to 10 years with the amount of deliveries happening, the proliferation of e-commerce, the address data has gotten significantly better. So today, most of the courier companies or most of the software companies that facilitate shipping have got improved data sets around the addresses and the delivery success. On that particular address, what is the ratio of attempted deliveries, what is the ratio of successful deliveries. So that is one thing that has happened. So now our foundational data bed has gotten stronger, number one. Number two is with all of the data and all of the transactions that have been happening over all of these years, people have also collected huge, vast amounts of data on customers, specific customers, individual people, what have they ordered across multiple platforms. It could be Myntra, it could be Amazon, it could be websites. All of this customer behavior also is now getting captured and recorded in multiple systems. So now you have quality address data, and you have customer behavioral data, right? This customer is constantly ordering but not taking the delivery, right? So there are a lot of RTO rejections happening, or there are particular frauds happening at particular pin codes. So all of these data have now gotten built over time, and this is what now AI tools are able to leverage to basically assess risk, right? So risk assessment is one of the key areas where AI is now helping, where there are now softwares available which almost on a real-time basis, when a customer places an order, they're able to analyze the multiple data points and determine a risk score. What is the risk or the probability of this particular order getting returned? So those decision points are now able to help brands determine whether to ship the order or not, or to trigger certain workflows. Oh, this customer looks risky, so can I trigger a COD workflow where I will maybe ensure that customer pays a certain prepayment before I ship the order, or I convert that particular order I don't allow this particular customer to do a COD, I only enforce a prepaid order, right? So these are some of the ways where, AI is able to help at a very granular level, because imagine if it's crores of customers, manually it is impossible to be able to figure out how to treat a particular customer. So that entire workflow and that ability to treat or manage individual transactions using intelligent data, that is now what has become possible. So especially in tier 2 and tier 3, where brands were not wanting to they were earlier not they were blocking those pin codes. They were saying that, look, I will not service these pin codes. Now these pin codes are now opening up. and brands are able to now start delivering. So those customers are now getting better access to these particular products and these particular brands. And that is, I think, one way that is helping. On the retail side, right, there have been some very interesting transformations. Right now, the retail was largely being serviced, in all of these small tier 3, tier 4 cities. You were dependent on distributors. So again, new age brands didn't have access over there. Number two is even traditional brands, very few products where the distributor was ready to take a risk. Only those products were available. But now there are a lot of startups. There are a couple of startups that have come up which are now eliminating that distributor value chain. They are able to, because of the proliferation of the internet, because of the proliferation of these systems, they are able to give direct access to those individual retailers in these small cities to all of these newer products. So what's happening is now that the retailers are seeing these products, they're able to experiment. They're able to order small quantities, which was not the case earlier, because earlier the logistic networks were not that well developed. So now a small retailer sitting in some city in UP can order a product from some of the new age startups in smaller quantities, have that delivered. They're able to then see the response to the products. They're able to then pass that information back to these to the D2C brands or these new age startups on a real-time basis on how that product is getting adopted or what is the kind of acceptance of those products. So therefore, now what's happening is that the overall access is improving in all of these cities, and that is being primarily enabled through all of these different technologies.
Definitely. I think that is really important, especially as to how we are progressing each day. And, when we talk about AI, I think with these tier two cities or rural areas which have historically been left behind, I think AI is one of an inclusive tool that is bridging the gap. And definitely we have more improved data sets. And by leveraging those data sets, it really highlights how a focused innovation can deliver a speed, but also impact where it matters the most. So I think AI can also be termed as it's a catalyst for inclusion, especially in a country like India. Now, of course, with consumer expectations rising, I think what we are expecting right now is more on demand services. And I think logistics is everything now. Uber users are accustomed to seeing exactly where their driver is, and consumers expect groceries and gadgets to shop up more quickly, with more precise tracking also. Now the pressure is more intense at the last mile, which is known as a final delivery journey. Now I think this is the most expensive stage. It represents greater than 50% of your shipping cost, and it is also least cost effective owing to the traffic, dispersed endpoints, and of course unpredictable delivery windows. So even as companies are hustling to address this bottleneck, I think AI is emerging as a disruptive force. So how do you think AI is solving the last mile puzzle?
So I think like you said, the main thing is there are two main metrics, right? One is availability of product, right? So today, if like with quick commerce coming in, right, there are multiple dark stores which cater to maybe a 2 or 3 kilometer radius. Now the big thing is today, if in the traditional retail network, if you went to a store and you were looking to buy something and you couldn't find it in that store, that data was not recorded anywhere, right? So first and foremost, today, if you're going on a Zepto or a Blinkit or a Instamart and you're searching for a product in your pin code, that data is getting recorded. They know that, okay, someone is searching for this product, and whether it's in stock or out of stock is secondary, but intent is getting captured, right? So that intent is now being used to be able to figure out, okay, what additional products need to be brought into that particular pin code. So through this, again, through collection of data over time, uh, you know, AI is able to help these quick commerce platforms determine how to improve and extend their catalog, help them determine what products they need to keep in stock and what products there is less intent and what they shouldn't keep in stock. Because the challenge today for a Zepto or any of these quick commerce platforms is a limited amount of space. The shelf space that they have is the value of gold. Any product sitting there not getting sold or sitting there for more than 3 days is a complete loss. So if you have to make this business sustainable, right, today there's a lot of discounting happening, which is fine, but eventually maybe in a few months time or in a year's time, these platforms will not be able to discount anymore. They will have to be able to be profitable. To be profitable, the only way you can do that is, of course, A, fixing your pricing, but B, by being more efficient. And efficiency will come from two places. One is the ability of that dark store to be able to literally have a 100% OTIP, which means that whatever is the intent, not what is available in the dark store, but what is the intent of that particular neighborhood or community to have products and to be able to fulfill it and have minimal loss of intent, which means people searching for things but not being found. So that is one metric which they need to solve for. The more they're able to solve for that, again, the more will be the output and throughput of that dark store. So that is one area where AI can help. Second is efficiency. Efficiency would be around the delivery. Now, the delivery model for quick commerce is inherently inefficient because it is a P2P model, which is a point-to-point model. Now, here, in a traditional e-commerce setup, the rider will leave with 50 deliveries which are earmarked, and he will do 50 deliveries or 80 deliveries in a day and come back. So there, the cost per delivery is much, much lower. But here, the deliveries are spontaneous. You place an order, and then you have to literally go and pick it and then deliver it and then come back. Here, at best, people are able to achieve maybe a 2 or a 3 kind of a deliveries within an hour, whereas in a traditional e-commerce delivery setup, that would be more like a 15 to 20. So it's almost operating at 1/3 or 1/5. So here, AI can play a role in terms of improving the overall efficiency by connecting these gig workers. I think that is something today. What happens is that the biggest problem today is that a gig worker is tied to a particular platform at a point in time. If you're able to open up that network and be able to sort of utilize that driver more efficiently across platforms, that is going to be one area of unlock. So here, data sharing and the ability to leverage data to be able to improve the delivery efficiency from maybe a 2 or 3 in an hour to 4 or 5 would be one major unlock for them. And here, I think AI can play a role in terms of being able to sort of improve that driver efficiency. So these are two places where I see. And of course, the third is around returns. So this is a major issue today where for quick commerce, returns is a major challenge because products sitting in the dark store, which is not sold, eventually their logistic networks are not that robust where they're able to get those returns back from a dark store where it is not needed to another dark store where maybe that product will sell. Because those logistic networks are not efficient enough, the products tend to get lost or they deteriorate and then they get lost over there. So that is, at least they're losing 10 to 15% of product because of the inability to bring that back. So using AI to be able to more accurately predict what inventory to stock and in what quantity and reduce that loss of product percentage at a dark store level will be the third unlock for them to be able to improve efficiency and their unit economics. So this is the three areas where I see AI playing a role in the quick commerce realm.
Right, definitely. And I think that's a very powerful perspective that you have shared, and it kind of highlights how, yeah, I mean, how last a mile delivery is not just about logistics, but it is also becoming more like a tech-enabled precision game. And that's where, we have AI in the picture, and it's increasing the efficiency and making sure that, the last mile delivery has more real-time visibility and making it more scalable and even sustainable. Now, moving to the other side of our conversation, I came across a survey of distributors and found that 95% are exploring AI use cases across the distribution value chain. However, only 30% say that they have sufficient talent within the organization to scale these efforts, and less than 10% say they have developed an AI roadmap and prioritize use cases for deployment. So I think as logistics owners and distributors embark on this AI journey, it's really important to keep in mind that successful AI transformation is not just about improving your business processes, but is also enhancing the team experience. So, what are certain challenges in hiring and upskilling the tech talent and in the logistics industry, and how do you think we can overcome them?
So I think you're referring more from a distributor point of view or more from a logistics LSP point of view, logistics service provider point of view?
Logistics service provider point of view.
Okay. So I think, see, today, if you look at it, right, I mean, there's a fundamental issue. Most of the logistics companies today in India it's still a fairly fragmented game. There are very few organized logistics companies in India today, right? Whether it's courier, whether it's warehousing, the number of such organized players is few. There are not too many. So the problem is that if you're only organized players tend to have that ability to deploy tech in a very intelligent way. So what is happening is that set of people or the set of companies that are able to use this or have the wherewithal to use this is limited. Now, even within these companies, the challenge today again is twofold. One is strategy, and the second is execution. So I think today on the strategy side, still many companies are figuring out or still trying to understand how do I smartly use these technologies. I mean, people are using the buzzword of AI and stuff like that, but how do I smartly identify the use cases within my organization and create a justifiable business case to deploy this technology? That's number one. Number two is, even if you are able to come up with a good use case, the challenge is around execution and to be able to find the right people or hire the right people or to upskill the right people to be able to deliver on that. So there, I think one is, if you really want to sort of commit to the use of AI and use of these kind of technologies, first you'll have to mentally make that kind of a financial commitment, because it cannot be done at a very low cost. So there is a certain amount of financial commitment that an organization needs to make. If they're ready to make that financial commitment, then they're able to hire certain amount of talent. But that being said, also today, even with talent, you need to do two things. Today, what we are doing internally is we are leveraging a lot of automation, what is called low code and no code. So there are today very smart technologies which are built on AI, which help you rapidly deploy certain applications and embed AI within those applications within your organization at a fairly low cost. So there are like platforms like Zoho. I'll give you an example of Zoho Creator, right? So that's a very good platform that we are using that is helping us rapidly deploy and test certain applications to see if there is a use case. And if it doesn't work, we can shut it down quickly, right? I don't need to invest a huge amount of tech talent. Even somebody at a business analyst level is able to design workflows and then deploy them in a very, very short span of time. So I think the use of this kind of technology. The second is also even within our tech and development team, especially for testing and for even on the development side, we're embracing AI tools. So on testing, there are a lot of testing tools that are available that automate the overall test cases and the testing process. That helps us reduce the amount of QA talent that's needed. Number one. Number two is also by using AI, the existing an SD1 resource can become an SD2 resource simply by using AI and helping AI helping them to develop or generate code or throwing code at the tool to help the tool debug it, right? So these are the things that I think if an organization does, they can augment their existing tech team. And by also embracing specific tools like Zoho and all of that, we're able to reduce the dependence on expensive tech resources and have analysts also develop and deploy fairly quickly applications as well.
Definitely, I think that makes a lot of sense. And of course, it's more about focusing on the use case. And we, of course, need to also have a thought process of a future-oriented approach. And I think it's not just about filling roles, but about building capabilities that evolve with the business. Having said that, one last question for you, Ajay. If you could just quickly summarize, what are certain trends you think will shape the future of inventory management and warehousing?
So see, distributed inventory is definitely going to is here to stay, right? Where any brand today is earlier a brand could manage their operations from one single location. So therefore the control on inventory was significant. Now, with the need to be able to fulfill orders, in a short span of time, brands are required to spread their inventory across multiple cities and within multiple cities across multiple marketplaces. So inventory proliferation is a major problem that I see going going forward in the future. As a result of that, there's going to be a huge amount of pressure on terms of working capital, because if a brand could earlier manage with, let's say, 1 lakh units of inventory, now they're going to need 2 or 3 lakh units of inventory to cater to maybe 50% more sale than what they had earlier. So inventory proliferation is one major trend that I'm seeing. So here, I think tools around inventory optimization, that is something I think I'm definitely see a lot of companies building tools around this. A lot of softwares coming around to help around this. Even WMSs are getting smarter to help them do this. So this is one trend. Other than this, on the I think especially the use of AI for risk management, that is another trend that I'm seeing. The ability to predict risk in your supply chain, the ability to predict risk in your customers as well in terms of order fulfillment. That is the second trend that I would say is very strong that I'm seeing right now.
Great, definitely. And I think as we look ahead, the potential for AI and automation in India's logistics sector is truly exciting. We are talking about a country expected to become a $215 billion logistics market by 2030. And the innovations we discussed today, smart warehousing, predictive forecasting, intelligent last mile solutions, data security, I think these are not just luxuries for big players, but becoming more like essentials for every company, a logistics company that is hoping to stay competitive. And I think everyone together, they are helping build a logistics ecosystem that's faster, more reliable, and of course, more inclusive. Thank you so much, Ajay, for taking out the time and effort to be on a podcast today and helping us understand that AI will continue to evolve, and as logistics companies embrace innovation, we will definitely witness a new era that doesn't just solve the old problems, the old challenges of the logistics industry, but also reimagines how we are getting goods from point A to point B, no matter how complex the journey is. So thank you so much. It was pleasure you on a podcast today, and it was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much. So, this is for our listeners. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into how AI and automation are transforming India's logistics landscape. Stay tuned for our next episode, and we'll bring you more insights from industry leaders, cutting edge of technology. Until then, keep innovating and keep moving forward. Thank you so much.